Hello and welcome to Prepspot. In this video, we are going to know about a major development in the Indian telecom sector that's been making headlines in early 2025. The anticipated tariff hike that is expected to push telecom services revenue beyond the 1 lakh rupees crore mark. This topic is not only significant for understanding the dynamics of India's digital economy but also has broader implications for consumer affordability, debt sustainability, and the ongoing transformation driven by 5G technology. Let's start by setting the stage. As you know, India is one of the largest telecom markets in the world. With a population of roughly 1.4 billion and over 1.16 billion wireless subscribers as of 2023, the telecom industry has been a cornerstone of our digital revolution. In fiscal year 2024, the sector generated a gross revenue of around 3.36 trillion rupees. However, the rapid expansion of our digital infrastructure, the rollout of 5G and the increasing need for capital to service high debt levels have forced our major telcos, such as Reliance Jio, Bharti Airtel, and Vodafone Idea, to consider another round of tariff hikes. Now, these tariff hikes have been implemented before, noticeable ones in 2021, 2022, and 2023, primarily to boost the average revenue per user, or ARPU. Earlier, ARPU figures were in the range of 100 rupee to 150 rupees, but with these increases, we saw a jump to about 150 rupee to 200 rupees. Now, in early 2025, projections indicate that the services revenue of these telecom companies could exceed 1 lakh rupees crore. This milestone is driven by several factors: rising data consumption, the aggressive 5G rollout, and the need to improve overall profitability in a market that is also grappling with high levels of debt. The background of these changes can be traced back to the intense competition in the telecom industry. When Reliance Jio entered the market in 2016 with ultra-low tariffs and free data offers, it triggered a tariff war that fundamentally reshaped the landscape. This disruption led to a dramatic increase in data usage and the emergence of a more price-sensitive consumer base. However, while Jio's strategy boosted subscriber numbers dramatically, it also put pressure on margins. Consequently, the surviving players had to increase their tariffs in subsequent years to maintain financial stability and fund the massive investments needed for 5G infrastructure. According to industry analysts like CRISIL and reports in Business Standard, these tariff increases are now essential to meet the growing demand for digital services. Let's delve into the economic numbers and technical details. For context, in FY24, the total gross revenue for the telecom sector was around 3.36 trillion rupees. The current projections for 2025 indicate that the services revenue could exceed 1 lakh rupees crore. This projection is supported by the rapid adoption of 5G technology, which is expected to significantly increase ARPU. In 2023, the average revenue per user was in the 150 to 200 rupees range, and analysts predict that by 2025, it could rise to 250 to 300 rupees as customers pay more for enhanced network speeds and improved connectivity. Furthermore, the telecom sector is poised to benefit from a growing subscriber base, with the number of internet users expected to exceed 1 billion by 2025. The technical side of this policy change involves a detailed tariff hike process that is set in motion after consultations with the Telecom Regulatory Authority of India, or TRAI. When telcos decide to revise their tariffs, they work on updating their billing systems and notifying customers well in advance, usually with a 30-day notice period. This period is crucial to allow consumers to adjust and for the companies to integrate the new pricing into their systems without disrupting service continuity. The revenue model now includes contributions from voice calls, which constitute about 10% of revenue, data services making up 80%, and value-added services contributing the remaining 10%. With 5G, which is already estimated to contribute around 20% to the overall revenue mix by 2025, the pricing structure becomes even more critical. One of the primary reasons behind this tariff hike is the need to manage high debt levels. For instance, Vodafone Idea's debt stands at an alarming level of around 2.1 lakh rupees crore, putting significant pressure on the company to raise revenue. The tariff hike is seen as a necessary measure to improve cash flow and maintain operational sustainability, even as it might place a burden on consumers, particularly those in lower income brackets. From an economic perspective, the potential impact of crossing the 1 lakh rupees crore threshold is multifaceted. On one hand, increased revenue can lead to more investments in network expansion, quality of service improvements, and further development of 5G technology. On the other hand, there is a risk of widening the digital divide if the cost of services becomes prohibitive for a significant portion of the population, especially in rural areas where affordability is already a major concern. Reports from Indian Express indicate that there have been protests by consumer groups in Mumbai, expressing concern over the increased costs and calling for regulatory oversight to ensure that tariffs remain fair and competitive. It is also important to note that this development is not happening in isolation. The Indian telecom sector is a major contributor to the nation's GDP, accounting for about 6% of it. As revenue crosses the 1 lakh rupees crore mark, it not only boosts the tax base but also has the potential to create additional jobs in related sectors, such as network maintenance, digital services, and even manufacturing of telecom equipment. A hypothetical report from Niti Aayog projects that these measures could lead to the creation of 500,000 new jobs in logistics, manufacturing, and other allied industries, further bolstering economic growth. However, the tariff hike also faces challenges. Consumer affordability is a major concern, and there is a delicate balance that telcos need to maintain between increasing revenue and not alienating customers. In urban areas, where the average income is higher and data consumption is robust, the impact may be less severe. But in rural regions, where the penetration of internet services is growing but incomes are still relatively low, a significant hike in tariffs could result in reduced usage and potentially slow down the overall digital inclusion agenda. According to reports by Niti Aayog, rural areas contribute about 30% of the telecom revenue, and any pricing strategy that does not account for affordability could exacerbate existing disparities. Additionally, the implementation of these new tariffs is subject to regulatory scrutiny. TRAI has been actively involved in reviewing tariff orders to ensure they are justifiable and in the public interest. Any significant increase is likely to face legal challenges and public protests, as was the case in previous rounds of tariff revisions. There is a growing debate among policymakers, economists, and consumer rights groups about the long-term effects of these hikes on the digital economy. While telcos argue that higher tariffs are essential for sustainable growth and to meet the capital-intensive demands of 5G, critics contend that this approach might marginalize low-income consumers and could lead to a slowdown in digital adoption in certain segments of the population. From a strategic standpoint, the shift to higher tariffs is also seen as a response to global trends in the telecom sector. With 5G becoming the next frontier in digital connectivity, countries around the world are ramping up their investments in next-generation networks. In India, the race to deploy 5G is not only about faster internet but also about competing on a global scale in terms of technological innovation and economic growth. As per industry estimates, the number of 5G users in India is expected to rise significantly, contributing to a higher ARPU and justifying the need for tariff hikes to fund the technology rollout. Furthermore, with projections suggesting that by 2028 there could be as many as 770 million 5G users in India, the revenue potential is enormous, provided that the regulatory environment remains conducive to growth and consumer rights are adequately protected. Let's now consider the broader implications of these tariff hikes. Economically, the expected revenue growth to over 1 lakh crore in services revenue will strengthen the financial health of the telecom sector, enabling companies to invest more in network infrastructure and digital services. This could lead to better connectivity, improved quality of service, and more competitive offerings in the market. In turn, this would support the government's broader digital initiatives and help drive economic growth, particularly as India strives to become a global leader in the digital economy. Socially, however, the hike presents a challenge. For millions of consumers, especially those in rural areas where incomes are lower and digital literacy is still improving, even a moderate increase in tariffs could mean a significant increase in their monthly expenses. This could potentially lead to a decline in usage, or worse, a situation where only a fraction of the population can afford high-speed, high-quality internet access, further widening the digital divide. It is here that the role of government regulation becomes crucial. Regulatory bodies like TRAI need to strike a balance between enabling telecom companies to generate sufficient revenue for investment in advanced technologies like 5G and ensuring that the cost of digital services remains affordable for all segments of the population. Moreover, there is a broader debate about the sustainability of the telecom industry. While tariff hikes are one way to improve ARPU and manage debt, they are not a panacea. Telcos face stiff competition, not just domestically, but from global players as well. The recent consolidation in the industry, such as the merger of Vodafone and Idea, reflects the pressures on traditional business models in an era of rapid technological change and intense price competition. This dynamic is forcing companies to rethink their strategies, invest in innovative technologies, and optimize their operational efficiencies. For instance, the increased revenue might be partially reinvested in expanding the fiber optic networks or developing new digital services that cater to the evolving needs of consumers, further integrating the digital ecosystem. Another important factor to consider is the impact of 5G on this revenue trajectory. 5G, with its promise of ultra-high speeds, low latency, and increased connectivity, is set to revolutionize various sectors, including manufacturing, healthcare, and education. The widespread adoption of 5G is likely to create a multiplier effect on the telecom sector's revenue. Not only will there be direct revenue from increased data consumption, but there will also be indirect benefits from the digital transformation of other industries. This, in turn, can lead to a virtuous cycle of growth, where improved connectivity drives economic activity, which then fuels further investments in digital infrastructure. At the same time, the increased costs associated with tariff hikes have to be managed carefully. Telcos often justify these hikes by citing the need to cover the massive investments required for network upgrades, particularly for 5G, as well as the burden of high debt levels. For instance, companies like Vodafone Idea are burdened by debt running into lakhs of crores, and this financial strain necessitates higher revenue per user. However, if these costs are passed entirely on to consumers, there is a risk that overall consumption may fall, ultimately impacting revenue negatively. This delicate balance between cost recovery and consumer affordability is at the heart of the debate on tariff hikes. In conclusion, the anticipated tariff hike in the Indian telecom sector, with services revenue projected to exceed 1 lakh crore in 2025, is a multifaceted issue. It reflects the dynamic evolution of a sector that is central to India's digital transformation, driven by the rapid adoption of 5G and the need to manage enormous debt levels. On one hand, these hikes could provide the much-needed capital for further technological advancements and network expansion, potentially creating a more robust and competitive digital ecosystem. On the other hand, they pose significant challenges for consumer affordability and digital inclusion, particularly in rural areas where price sensitivity remains high. As regulators like TRAI work to ensure a balance between revenue generation and consumer protection, this topic remains at the forefront of discussions among policymakers, industry experts, and the general public. It is a vivid example of how economic, technological, and social factors converge in the modern digital economy. Answer this question in comments. The correct answer will be given hot and pinned. Lastly, we just want to let you know that we are a newly emerging online platform for competitive exams. Creating educational explainer videos like these requires a lot of effort, money, and time. If you like these videos and want us to excel and create videos in all categories of competitive exams, then you can consider supporting us with a one-time donation through the Ko-fi platform and also by becoming a member through Patreon. This will help us create more such informative educational videos in the competitive exams space. So, one last time, subscribe and share this channel with all your friends who are preparing for competitive exams. And also, follow us on social media platforms. The links are given in the About section of the channel and also in the video description. So, see you in the next video.